They had been trained to expect the worst. For months, German soldiers were told that surrendering to Americans meant brutality, starvation, and humiliation. Nazi propaganda painted the United States as a land of chaos, cruelty, and cold-hearted soldiers. So when thousands of German POWs were transported across the Atlantic and marched into American camps during World War II, most braced themselves for a nightmare they assumed was waiting on the other side of the gates. But nothing, not their training, not their fears, not their beliefs, prepared them for what actually happened on American soil. Picture it, rows of wooden barracks standing under wide-open skies, guards leaning casually against fences, and prisoners who expected danger but instead found structure, routine, and something they hadn't felt in months, safety. By the time November rolled around, the German POWs had begun to see cracks in everything they'd been told. The food was better than expected. Working conditions were fair. Guards treated them like men, not monsters. But the moment that truly shattered their expectations came on a day they didn't even know existed: Thanksgiving. As the scent of roasted turkey drifted across the camp, many POWs assumed it was a cruel trick, some way to tease starving prisoners with the smell of a feast they would never taste. But then the unbelievable happened. American officers announced that the prisoners would share in a full Thanksgiving dinner: turkey, potatoes, vegetables, warm rolls, pies, even coffee. Some Germans refused to believe it until they saw the plates placed in front of them. Others sat in stunned silence, eyes scanning the table like they were waiting for someone to snatch it away. But nothing happened. No tricks, no games, just a simple invitation to eat. Some prisoners cried quietly into their plates, overwhelmed by warmth they hadn't felt since leaving home. Others wrote in their journals about how the kindness unsettled them more than hostility ever could. They had spent years believing Americans were savages. Now they were being served the best meal they had eaten since before the war. One POW later said, "It was the first time I realized I had been lied to. The Thanksgiving dinner broke something open. It forced them to confront a truth they never expected. Their enemies had treated them with more humanity than the regime they had fought for. But the shock didn't end there. As the year drew to a close, guards decorated the camp with small lights and pine branches, preparing for Christmas. The German prisoners expected nothing. Maybe a normal meal, maybe a short break from labor, but certainly not celebration. Instead, they witnessed something that left them speechless. Americans honoring their tradition, Christmas, while including them in it. Officers allowed German prisoners to form choirs, build wooden nativity scenes, and craft decorations. Some camps even arranged for local families to send gifts. Small things like homemade cookies, scarves, socks, letters of kindness to the POWs. The prisoners couldn't believe it. Then came Christmas dinner. Tables were packed with roasted ham, potatoes, bread, cakes, and steaming cups of cocoa. Guards and prisoners ate together. Some even exchanged small handmade gifts. And perhaps the most surreal moment came when German choirs sang carols, and the Americans joined in. Two opposing sides of a brutal world war, united for one night by a shared song. No guns, no barking commands, no hatred. Just humans acknowledging each other's existence beyond the battlefield. For many Germans, this night changed everything. They realized they were experiencing a version of America that their own leaders had tried to hide from them. A place where freedom was more than just a word, where even the enemy deserved dignity. Some POWs wrote letters home, telling their families that America was nothing like the monster they had been warned about. Others felt conflicted, ashamed, or confused. How could the country they fought against treat them with more compassion than the country they fought for? That question haunted many, long after the war ended. These holiday meals did something deeper than fill stomachs. They opened minds. They turned fear into respect, hostility into reflection, and propaganda into doubt. Many prisoners of war who returned to Germany after the war carried with them a new understanding of democracy, fairness, and humanity. Some later immigrated to the United States. Others raised their children to think independently, not blindly. And many remembered those Thanksgiving and Christmas meals as the exact moment their worldview began to shift. But why did America treat enemy soldiers this way? The answer lies in what America was trying to prove. This wasn't just a military war. It was a moral one. By feeding POWs well, treating them fairly, and honoring their traditions, the United States was sending a message to the world. Strength is not cruelty, and victory does not require dehumanization. These acts of kindness made such an impact that even decades later, former POWs still speak with gratitude and disbelief about the holidays they spent behind American fences. So when we talk about World War II, it's easy to focus on battles, strategies, and victories. But sometimes the most powerful stories are the quiet ones. The moments when humanity breaks through the darkness of war. The dinners shared with German POWs didn't make headlines. They weren't written into grand speeches, but they lived on in the memories of the men who experienced them, shaping the way they understood the world for the rest of their lives. And maybe that's the real lesson. Sometimes the greatest victory doesn't come from defeating an enemy on the battlefield, but from showing them a better way to live. A turkey dinner, a Christmas carol, a moment of unexpected kindness. These are the things that changed hearts when bullets could not. And long after the war ended, many of those former German soldiers carried one simple truth with them. Humanity is more powerful than hate.